Hi, everybody. Welcome back to This Old Kitchen. I would like to introduce you to this old man. This is my husband, Steven.
Yeah, that's who I am. She's got me doing this now. So, um, really, my role is just to give her a hand doing all the things she wants done on this. We've been here out here about 3 years. When we moved in, it really wasn't in the best shape. The property, I mean, the round pen was falling apart. The exterior fence was old. I think this house was made in the mid 80s, and it seems like everything here is still from the mid 80s. In fact, earlier today, Becky put up some hanging plants and the damn trim came falling down, so I had to fix that. But this really is just more for her. What she's trying to do is she really has been rooted into wanting to entertain, and she likes to have people over, and she likes to learn, and she's really using this platform for that. She wants to share with you and everybody else what she knows, and she'd like feedback. I mean, we're not, hell, I don't know damn thing
Okay.
about carpeting, and she just told me not to cuss, so I'll watch that. As a carpenter, I don't. Father
You're
was a
not a
tradesman,
carpenter.
but I'm not afraid of taking it on. I'm not afraid of figuring it out. Um, each time I put together a project, it gets a little better. Figure out something new, and she even show you the god awful chicken house that I put together. That thing's a. She told me not to cuss, so I won't. But yeah, that's what it is. So I think what we'll do is we'll start. Rebecca's going to do just a showing of y'all about our property. And we're not embarrassed by it because we didn't build it, so we have no pride behind it. But what we're going to put together, we want something to be, something that we can hold our heads up and say we did this. So she's going to start there, and if you want to come along for a ride, that's great. If not, you're not going to hurt my feelings because I don't know any of you. So, all right, here we go.
Hey, everyone. So, yes, that was the other half of me, the muscle. But what I wanted to do today was just a little farm tour to kind of give you guys an idea of what we live on. So, we live in a community that has between 2 and 4 acre lots. On average, most of them are about 2 acres. But back here on this backside, there's quite a bit more larger properties. So we live on 2 lots. They're 2 parcels. The first one that the house is on and the barn is on is I think my husband said just under 5 acres, 4 1/4, 4 3/4. I don't know. And then we have an adjacent property that is 4 acres that we just acquired that we are going to be using to build out and do some rotational grazing. One of the things that I wanted to do is to be able to get my own cattle, process my own cattle, and that property has not had any kind of, other than us mowing it, they haven't had any kind of um, weeding, any kind of spraying, anything like that. I don't want to do any spraying, but I do want to. Our plan is to start off with goats, getting the goats to go and clear all of that out. And then at that point, we're going to put some additional fencing up and do some rotational grazing with some cattle. Just a couple of heads, not a whole lot. I can't do milk, so we likely won't do any kind of dairy cattle, but we'll probably do goat milk, but we'll see how that goes. So that's kind of the plan for springtime. And then we also, when we get down to the chicken coop in the barn, I'll kind of show you some more things that we're going to do, but we're just going to drive through right now. I am on the very front part of the property with the house on it, and we sit back about 250 yards, 250, 300 yards from the front of the driveway. And the gate that we have, we are going to be widening it and also rebuilding it. The When we get snow here and the plows come through, they only plow the main street, which is what we're on. And unfortunately, because our driveway dips, we get stuck. Well, we have in the past, not anymore, but we're going to be widening this driveway and I'm not sure if we're going to do asphalt. I kind of like the gravel driveway, but we'll see what um, my husband decides that he wants to do. We may end up moving the driveway. I think between the two properties, it's a little bit easier. There's not as much of a incline grading to get to the property or get to the street and vice versa. So once the plows do come through in the wintertime, hopefully we won't have any kind of issues with that, but we'll see. So I'm just going to kind of drive around and give you a little bit of an idea of what we're working with. And then when I get to each spot, I'll kind of tell you what our plans are and what we would like to do. Um, Everything right now is in the very beginning stages. We do have a chicken coop. The chicken coop's going to end up being rebuilt and expanded, like I said in my last video, which I don't know what happened with the sound, but it was all messed up. We are going to be expanding the chicken coop, getting more chickens. We did just recently get a rooster, and we're going to start looking into possibly doing some incubating for some more chicks and kind of expanding that, and we'll see what happens with that. My garden is also in the very early stages. We've got a little bit built out. I've got plans for next year, and we'll go through that as well. So we're going to drive through the front part of it. If you can see behind me, that is our driveway. That's the beginning gate there. And then we've got, other than some obligatory trash, we've got our gate there, and that's where we kind of keep everybody out, or keep the dogs out, because we've got a lot of dogs on the property that are on this community that get out and run around and kind of cause havoc. But so let's go ahead and take that drive through and show you what we're working with and what our plans are. And if you have any suggestions, again, like I said, we are new to this, and if you have any suggestions on what would work best, that would be fantastic, because I'm always, like I said before, looking for suggestions on how to improve, how to do things better, how to just make it more manageable and not such of a struggle, especially during winter. Winter times get really, really hard here. Like I said before, we are in kind of like a convergence zone. And so a lot of the weather that we get, either it's really, really light and mild, or it's really, really severe. So we'll see. Okay, so we are on the opposite side in that additional property. And so we're on the far corner of it. This probably would end up being the driveway if we decided to reroute it. You can see the street right back there. And so to come down this way, obviously we would have to elevate it. But if you see there's a little dip here, all we would really have to do is I think we'd have to put in some drainage, but also just kind of fill it in, and it would be level with the actual property that we have right here. But if you can take a look, switch you around. If you take a look, that would be the additional side and additional property. And then that's the house right there. And then those trees that are coming up, that's the property line where the driveway is at. And so it would be a lot of grazing land. If we look at the grass right now, the fescue that is here, there's not a whole lot of weeds. So I don't think it would take much to do some grazing on here for goats to kind of clean it up, clean up the cactus. There's a couple of weeds in here, but for the most part, it looks like it'd be pretty good and pretty ready to start. I think we'd do one season, and I think it'd be ready to go for cattle. And we could also possibly end up moving the barn over here too. There's quite a bit here, but that view right there is just stunning. If it was a clear day, you'd be able to see the Rockies from here. And with where the house is right now, right over here, we've got, I think there's 6 trees that are kind of in the way of every sunset. And then that land, those rolling hills right there, that's some leased land. And we've got cattle that come up and do a lot of grazing there as well. So it's a perfect spot for a larger property, combined property, I guess. So we may end up moving and putting the house over here. We may end up moving those trees, relocating those trees. So who knows? So you can see there is a bridle trail that goes along in between here, in between this property and that property. They've got mini horses over there. That's so cute. It goes up all the way up there and all the way around the subdivision. And so that would be the grazing land, and then back there is our house. And then the bridle trail runs through both of them and then adjoins right over there. Okay, so this is going to be the garden. Now it's only half done. What I've done is when we first moved on this property, I tried to use as much of the leftover wood, pallets, panels, as much as I could. When we initially moved out here, there was so much trash that was left here that it took us probably about 4 months having a big dumpster out here getting picked up every week, where we were loading brush, trash. I mean, there was a termite infested, what looked like rabbit hutch. I mean, it was a mess. And so it took us a long time to really get it cleaned up, to dog poop, the ridiculous amount of dog poop. But it took us quite a while to get it all cleaned up. And so what I did was I salvaged as much as I could, and obviously wanted to use as much as I could, and get it cleaned up before we really started. Now, when I started building this garden, we started at the beginning of the season, putting it together. It's been 2-3 years, going on 4 years that we've been here, and it has been a struggle. It's been a struggle. I told you I'm from the West Coast, and so it was pretty difficult to figure out the growing seasons, things like that. The first year I was here, my husband made a little tiny garden for me, and it was just perfect. I had tons of tomatoes, tons of peppers, and I absolutely loved it. But living on just under 10 acres and having literally just a small patch kind of really didn't serve its purpose. I really wanted to be able to grow food, to preserve food, and to do all of that. And so it's been a slow process, but it is getting there. Then last year when I went to go plan everything, everyone kept telling me, don't do it until after Mother's Day. Don't do it until after Mother's Day. I waited until after Mother's Day, or waited until right before Mother's Day, and then we had a snowstorm. So I lost that crop. And I think everybody here in this area had the same issues because we did have such a late winter. This year I waited and waited and waited, and I think I waited too late because I really didn't get a whole lot, which was okay because I was still trying to figure it out. But this is the idea for the garden. So I've got some leftover panels here, T-posts, all that stuff. And so I kind of did a frame out. I also had quite a bit of pallets that I wanted to use up. So we've got our wall. That's going to be kind of like our wind wall. We are facing north right now, and so we do get a lot of wind. And then when the snow hits, the wind is it's really, really harsh. And so I wanted to get something to kind of break that wind. We do get a lot of wind again during the spring, during the summer right now. If you can't hear it, it is pretty windy. So this side is going to be closed in. I left it open right now just because I don't have anything planted, but this is going to be closed in here, and then we'll have an adjoining gate right here to keep out the deer. We also have quite a few rabbits that we need to make sure that we keep out, but we haven't gotten that far yet. This side of the garden is going to be what's called the berry patch. So we're going to have blackberries and raspberries planted here. And then now this is my fall garden. Once my fall garden comes in, which should be, it's getting there, which should be soon, what I'll do is I'll replant this and get my bare root strawberries in there, and that way they're ready for next season. The fenced in part right here, that, okay, sorry about that. So what this was our former chicken run when we had a smaller chicken hut, And I think what we're going to do with this is going to be either what I initially planned for is going to be my tomato and pepper patch, but I think my husband wants to put um, a greenhouse, but which would be fine. But the problem is I can't stand up on this side because it's too short. So either we're going to raise it up and make it into a greenhouse, or it's going to be my pepper patch. And then over here, this is going to be my little garden, my little tiny garden. That's just about the end of it. I've gotten 3 harvests of lettuce out of this. I've got 3 harvests of spinach out of this. I've got some sugar snap peas. I've already gotten some beets. I've got carrots for the fall that are growing in here as well. And so we'll kind of see how this progresses. I've got some onion sprouts in there. And then back here, this is going to be where I plant all my corn. Now I do have this gated off, and it will eventually become the corn patch. Not too much for right now, for the next couple, I don't know, year or so. And then right here, I've got some pumpkins, which are obviously not growing. Like I said, it took me a while to get all of this in, and unfortunately waited too long in this season. I've got my compost bin right there. That's where all the chicken stuff goes, anything kind of extra. And then this is our double wide. This is the chicken coop that my husband built. Literally was slapped together. He's not a carpenter, as he said, but it did turn out fantastic. It's nice and big inside, but I do call it the double wide. And then we've got, where are they? Our chickens in here. They've got a covered area right here that has all of their food. They've got a little outdoor area. Hi, Sriracha. And then their hen house, which is quite large. But what we plan on doing with this, I kind of don't want him to rebuild it just because I appreciate all the effort that he put in. But I do feel like we need a bigger run. And we put this one in really quick when we realized we were going to get Sriracha, and so they needed kind of additional space. And so we put this one in really quick. What I would like to do is get some additional paneling and do a full enclosure off of this side. Obviously, it's next to the propane tank. The propane tank will be fine, but I think giving them that extra area and the sun exposure, and they've got the covered part there, would be perfect for them. One of the things I'm not sure if I mentioned in my garden part on this is the addition of flower beds. So once we get this gate closed off and this section closed off and we get our berry patches in, there are going to be additional flower beds. We are going to be putting in three by, I believe, 16 flower beds on each side. So 1, 2, 3, and then over here 1, 2, 3. And so you'll have that back part, and then you'll have the front part. The front part will definitely need to be closed in, probably with some, for right now, some fabric netting, or if we are blessed enough, full fencing. We'll get some deer fencing in there and to kind of help contain and preserve my vegetables next year. Okay, so adjacent to the garden and the chicken coop, there is a trailer there that is supposed to be moved, but this is the house. So it is just under 1,100 square feet. It was built by the original owners in 1983, I believe, and is in dire need of a facelift. I love the house. I love the brick. I love all of it. I love the space of it, but we definitely need more room. These flower beds that are in the front. So when I initially moved in, my niece told me get chickens. It helps everything, not realizing that it doesn't help flowers. And so my flower garden turned into just green brush. So all my dahlias and things like that did not survive. And so what I did was I put some squash in there this year to kind of eat up all that nitrogen, because I did put a lot of chicken waste in there to eat up all of that nitrogen in that dirt. Now, come spring next year, 2026, all of this is getting ripped out. So we've got 5 pallets of brick in the back pasture that needs to go somewhere. And since the house has already been built, we're not doing really any kind of additions onto it, I don't think. At least that's not in the plan right now. We do have some interior remodeling and some repositioning in a garage that we want to expand on. But as of right now, I don't think we're adding on to the house. But this whole front flower garden, flower bed needs to be ripped out, rebuilt with that brick, and kind of make it a little bit more inviting. Now, the owners did put in this beautiful walkway that goes to a fire pit. This is our fire pit. Theirs was a wood fire pit area before, but that is our propane fire pit that we have there now, which we love, and then obviously our patio furniture. But yeah, so these are all going to be ripped out. New stairs are going to be cemented. All of that has got to go. So we are going to save the dirt because I have put quite a bit of dirt in there, and I think that it's salvageable. And so next year I am super excited I get to plant some flowers instead of putting them all in pots. Let's go around to the backside. So this is the backside. This is the garage. The garage eventually is going to end up being our main entrance. I want to, once we do an interior video of what we're planning on doing, I'll kind of go into more detail, but that eventually is going to be the living room, dining room, so I can expand my kitchen. But this is the backside. These are the trees that I was talking about that tend to block our view of the sunset, which is fine because we still get a great view. And there is a bridle trail back there, and then the cattle come up to that back pasture and right up to the fence and graze. And then we've got the barn, the round pen, my Kichi boy, and then the back pasture. So once we actually do get to a point where we are remodeling the interior of the house, I think, so this is my neighbor's barn. I think what we're going to be doing is putting in there a barn slash shop to kind of just not butt up to it, but add to that area since that is his horse's barn. And that's it. Okay, so this is the back of the house, and that's the dog run and little enclosed gate area that my husband just built. And then back there you can see the propane tank and the chicken coop. And then obviously septic right here. So this bridle trail goes all the way down and around the property, the community, excuse me. And then the barn. So the barn is probably one of the biggest projects that we have. This entire round pen needs to be rebuilt. We are going to be starting that soon. We just got some tester materials today. We were deciding whether we wanted to do vinyl, if we wanted to continue to keep it wood. I think we are going to keep it wood, but we are going to completely change the configuration of it. So let's go inside the barn. Looks like one of my little water bottles fell out. So during the wintertime, I keep the door open just so they can get some cross area. There's all the brick. And they know I'm coming close to the barn, so they think they're going to get snacks. So this is kind of their chill out area. And then we've got our storage for hay and all of our riding stuff, our tack and things. And then the back pasture. Hi, Blue. All right, again, there is the bridle trail. There are the trees. And the brick. And this back pasture area is kind of where they hang out at. This is all their open area. Hi, Bluebell. Don't step on my toes. I know you want pets. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl, Bluebell. But this is where they hang out at. And so we reinforced it with some wire fencing, but this is going to have to be redone soon. When it comes to the actual round pen, all of this has fallen apart. It's been yanked out and needs to be completely rebuilt. So my husband asked me, he goes, well, do we really need a round pen? I said, well, you know, if your daughter's going to ride, yeah. And apparently here's her riding partner. She says yes. Bluebell? Yes, girl. So what we plan on doing with this, what our goal is, it's going to cost us, thank you for the kisses, Bluebell. It's going to cost us about $60 per panel. That's going to be 3 rails, the brackets for the rails. We're not replacing the posts because the posts are pretty sound. And then what we're going to do is, go on. Thank you. We are going to have, obviously keep it a split rail, but we're going to do some different configurations with the center railing. And so it'll be about $60 per section to do, and we're going to start that soon. See how they just have demolished it. But what a stunning view. This is why I love it here. So that is the ranch, the farm, the homestead, whatever you want to call it. That is the tour. That is the plan. I don't know if we're going to move the barn to the front adjacent property or if we're going to put it in the front of the property. We'll see what happens, but we do need to get this done because I think eventually if we don't keep the horses here, yes, she wants to say hi. If we don't keep the horses here, then we'll likely end up putting goats back here and or cattle, and then maybe sheep. I'm not sure if we're going to do sheep or not, but we'll see. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If again you have any tips on how to make it more efficient, definitely drop some comments, like and subscribe. That would help me out a lot. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. It's finally starting to cool down here in Colorado. I think next week is supposed to be in the 60s, which the horses love and I love. But you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.